All right, guys, welcome back to a new video here. So, a new article coming out of foreignpolicy.com from Trita Parsi, who is the editor of, or the leader, I believe, of the Quincy Institute. Again, executive vice president of the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft. And basically, he's been saying in this article, he's arguing, and basically what I've been saying as well for the last couple of weeks, Israel is going into Iran again. I mean, they did not achieve their full objectives the first time around in the 12-day war. There's no question about that. We discussed that. Again, the name of the operation, guys, was Rising Lion, which of course was the former flag of the Iranian country under the Shah. So obviously the goal in the operation, it was implied, was going to be regime change, which they did not achieve. Again, at best, it was partially achieved. And basically, Trita Parsi is arguing here, all the tea leaves are suggesting that Israel is going to attack Iran very soon. So listen to this. We'll get right into it. And by the way, guys, if you're liking the content, make sure to like and subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. It's super good for the algorithm. And if you want to become a member, hit the join button below and make sure to comment and Patreon below as well. Thanks for listening. I really appreciate the growth we're getting. And let's get right into it. So here we go. So Israel is likely to launch another war with Iran before December, perhaps even as early as late August. Guys, it's August the 16th right now. By late August, that's in like imminently. That's in a week or two. Wild stuff. And again, if you guys have been following what's been going on in Iran, they're having water shortages, and you kind of get the sense that maybe the Israelis could try and take advantage of this by going in again. I don't think it's out of the question whatsoever. So here we go. Iran is expecting and preparing for the attack. It played the long game in the first war, pacing its missile attacks as it anticipated a protracted conflict. In the next round, however, Iran is likely to strike decisively from the outset, aiming to dispel any notion that it can be subdued under Israeli military dominance. As a result, the coming war will likely be far bloodier than the first if U.S. President Trump caves to Israeli pressure again and joins the fight, which I think we all know how that's going to go. The United States could face a full-blown war with Iran that will make Iraq look easy by comparison. Israel's June war was solely never about nuclear's program. Again, obviously that's correct. The only people who believe that are, and again, I don't necessarily blame them, but guys, most people who are following the news, they're not into it. Like, they're not into foreign policy. They're not into geopolitics as many people who really are into this stuff like me and probably you are. Okay. But a lot of people, they just get there. Oh, they turn on Fox News or CNN and they're like, oh my goodness, the American government says they're going to attack Iran and take out their nuclear facility. That's a great thing, right? Like, who wouldn't want that? But obviously, as you and I both know, that's clearly not the objective here. The goal is far deeper than that, is to overthrow the Iranian regime, probably because the Israelis want hegemony in the region, okay? And obviously, there's a lot more factors at play here. But again, as Trita Parsi writes, it was about shifting the balance of power in the Middle East, with Iranian nuclear capabilities being an important but not decisive factor. For more than 2 decades, Israel has pushed the United States to take military action against Iran to weaken it and restore a favorable regional balance, one that Israel cannot achieve on its own. Obviously, that's correct, guys. Israel clearly could not achieve it. They would not have attacked Iran in the first place if they didn't have assurances from the United States that they would get involved. Guys, if the goal was to completely obliterate the nuclear facilities and they knew they needed the United States to bomb Fordo and the other facilities the entire time, they wouldn't have done it without U.S. assurances. Not to mention, according to Netanyahu himself now, and obviously U.S. intelligence reports, the attack failed. I mean, again, maybe there was partially destruction in some of these facilities, but a lot of the enriched uranium was secured. So if they were, first of all, they were to go back in again, it would completely justify everything I'm saying right now. Of course it failed. Of course it failed. And again, the Treaty Party is going to get into it here, but hey, the reason the ceasefire was reached was not necessarily because Iran was getting destroyed. The Israeli defense systems were also getting overrun, which we'll get into in a second here. So again, here we go. In this context, Israel strikes at 3 main objectives beyond weakening Iran's nuclear infrastructure. It sought to draw the United States into direct military conflict with Iran, to decapitate the Iranian regime, and to turn the country into the next Syria or Lebanon, countries that Israel can bomb with impunity and without any U.S. involvement. Only one of the 3 goals was realized. What's more, Trump did not obliterate Iran's nuclear program, nor has it been set back to a point where the issue cannot be resolved. Obviously, this is true. First of all, and again, a lot of people are like, oh my God, everyone like Tucker Carlson, everyone on the left, they were totally wrong, fear-mongering about World War III. The only reason why it did not, at this point, develop into a full-blown war was because of Iranian restraint. They sent a missile or 2 up to Qatar that was easily shot down and completely telegraphed. But they could have easily responded with several dozen or hundreds of missiles at these bases. It was Iranian restraint which led to de-escalation. That is just a fact, guys. That is just a fact. Because again, let's be clear. I'm not saying Iran did not take a big punch. They absolutely did. They absolutely did take a punch. But which is why they probably did want to de-escalate the conflict. But the way that it's framed in American media, you would think, oh my goodness, the Iranians have gotten completely destroyed, and the U.S. and Israel let them off the hook. That's not true at all. If you're following, especially the final couple of days of the conflict, the Israeli defense systems, I mean, they completely broke down. I mean, far more Iranian missiles were getting through and were killing far more people than in the beginning of the conflict. That is just a fact. So in other words, with its June attacks, Israel achieved a partial victory at best. Its preferred outcome was for Trump to fully engage, targeting both Iran's conventional forces and economic infrastructure. But while Trump favors swift, decisive military action, he fears full-scale war. His strategy in attacking Iran's nuclear facilities was designed to limit escalation rather than expand it. In the short term, he succeeded, much to Israel's chagrin, but in the long run, he's allowed Israel to trap him in an escalatory cycle. No question about it, because this conflict's not over, as we're discussing right now. He is trapped in that escalation kind of cycle here. And by the way, think how insane that is. The fact that we're a supposed ally of the United States, perhaps again the closest ally, according to many people in the United States government, is deliberately looking to draw us into conflict with an enemy of Israel. It's kind of crazy when you really think about it. It really is. Israel's other two objectives were clear failures. Despite early intelligence successes, such as killing 30 senior commanders and 19 nuclear scientists, it was only able to temporarily disrupt Iranian command and control. Within 18 hours, Iran replaced most of its, if not all of its commanders, and launched a heavy missile barrage, demonstrating its ability to absorb significant losses. So again, it was very telegraphed, guys, and a lot of the missile salvos were a couple missiles here and there. But again, what Trita Parsi is saying is, if they're attacked again, it'll be like, oh, Israel thinks they can do whatever they want. We're going to have to go in with several hundred. And not to mention, guys, the Chinese government has been supplying them. The Russian governments have been restocking the Iranian systems here. So they're going to be far more prepared than they were in the first time. And I think you're going to see more intense missile barrages once this happens. So this is going to be a catastrophe if this does happen, which I predict, and clearly Trita Parsi predicts as well. And again, the idea that it was just nuclear facilities is ridiculous. There's no question, as Trita Parsi writes here, Israel hoped its initial strikes would incite panic within the Iranian regime and hasten its collapse. Absolutely, that's clearly the case, and it did not happen. According to the Post, Mossad agents fluent in Persian called senior Iranian officials on their cell phones, threatening to kill them and their families unless they film videos denouncing the regime and publicly defecting. That's just insane. More than 20 such calls were made in the war's early hours when Iran's ruling elite was still in shock and reeling from the losses. Yet there's no evidence a single Iranian general capitulated to the threats, and the regime's cohesion remained intact. Contrary to the expectations of Israel, the killing of senior commanders from the Revolutionary Guard Corps did not lead to mass protests or an uprising, which they did expect. Instead, you saw an Iranian, again, rallying around the flag effect, which of course you saw during 9/11, and you're seeing it here in Iran. That absolutely happened. Israel could not capitalize on the regime's unpopularity after nearly 2 years of committing atrocities in Gaza and launching a deceptive attack on Iran amid nuclear negotiations. Mostly in the diaspora view Israel positively. So again, most of the population does not view Israel positively, contrary to what American and Israeli officials tell you. But I totally agree. Clearly, the Israelis and arguably the Americans' objectives were not reached in the first 12-day war here. And I think it's pretty obvious Israel wants to go back in and decapitate the regime. Whether they'll be successful or not is a whole different story. Again, they tried to kill the Iranian president, guys. Again, Mahmoud Pezeshkian was actually injured in an Israeli attack, which is wild. We found out a couple weeks ago. The design of the attack was to kill him. He survived the attack. He was wounded, but he survived. So again, the idea that it was just to target the nuclear facilities, not even true, obviously, which is of course how it's being framed now in the West and Western media. But obviously that wasn't true. They failed in their objectives regardless. So again, what happens next is anyone's guess. But my prediction, guys, and I've been saying it for a while now, they're going to go back into Iran. And I think this is going to be a more bigger and expanded conflict than the first time. So we'll see what happens, guys. Again, let me know what you think of this video in the comments with this article. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, make sure to like and subscribe. It's super good for the algorithm. Again, hit the join button below to become a member. My Patreon link's also below. And yeah, we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, guys. So any support, I really appreciate. So thank you guys so much for watching. Have a good night, and I'll see you later.